everybody. This is a special edition of Friends Stream Sports here tonight with Connor, and from all the way from across the pond, all the way from England, we have our dear friend Peter. Peter, good evening.
Good evening, Connor. Evening.
How you doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Something a bit different tonight. So it's nice to join you on this and have a couple of games of FIFA and discuss some sports, which I think at times like this is welcome relief from everything that's going on. Definitely.
Wonderful. Well, let me do this before we begin. For our listener, for our viewer, I met Peter actually through my wife Betsy, through the most magical place on earth, and we've built a friendship off of talking about pub life, talking about the beautiful game, a variety of different things, and we're excited to have Peter here tonight, and we're gonna play some football. We've played some Madden, we've played some American football, and now we're gonna go to the beautiful game here this evening. So let's get this going here. We're gonna start off with a real rousing game of United States versus England.
Yeah, I think it's nice to hear you call it football as well. I think that's one influence from this side of the pond.
Amen. So, all right. So Peter, let's kick it off. You know, it's one of the fun things about many of our conversations is the different sports cultures between the United States and the UK. Briefly, and I know you're making changes on your roster, so I'll give you just a second. But you know, it's briefly, you know, share some of your experiences within that sports culture. What's game day like in England?
I think having seen having been lucky enough to experience an Orlando City game day, I think it is slightly different over here than over there. I think over here we spend a bit more time in the pub. I think it's not you're probably not with the bulk of the fans for as long as you are over there. I think you're more with maybe your family group, etc. Than going to fan parks or like for the American football that I've seen, tailgating, etc. It's more. I think it's more of a maybe more of a personal sort of experience. Each individual's different. Some of the people I know just literally go to the game and then go home. Others spend a few hours in the pub, go back to the pub after the game, or just go to the pub before the game. And then you've obviously got your supporters clubs that will travel here, there, and everywhere, which I think. We're lucky in this country in the fact that we can do that a bit more than maybe you're able to in America. I know that away followings here are. I suppose that's the highlight, I think, for me, is travelling away to grounds and seeing new stadiums.
Beautiful. Peter, if you don't mind holding up 1 second here, I know you just got. We'll let this play out. I'm going to edit the audio settings.
No worries.
Nice.
We'll hit the pause button here. We'll get this pause here before too long. I think I got to kick it out of bounds.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, we're gonna get these audio settings right. Settings. Camera, visual. We gotta make sure they can hear our beautiful voices. And not the announcers. All right. This should do it. Let's just double check that it all set. Audio. Yeah. All right. This should be much better.
Awesome.
So you were saying just the personal nature of sports culture in over across the pond. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I think each. I suppose that there will be differences in how over there you treat a game day, but it feels more of a collective from what I've seen. Whereas here, I think each maybe family will treat a game day very differently. Some families, some of my friends, as I said, they'll just literally go to the game, go home, and it's all about just watching the game, and that's the main thing. Others, I mean, myself and my partner Jess, she will go to the pub for a couple of hours before the game, and then go back to the pub after the game, and try and make a bit more of a day of it. I think I do sort of see from, and it's one of the things I think we could do better over here, is that collective nature that I think a lot of American sports have with the tailgating. I think it's something that maybe misses from here. It's very it's quite sort of insular at times. I think with some of the games I've gone to, and where you're very much on your own until you get to the game, and then it sort of explodes into a great finish.
Oh, it does explode into a great finish.
Yes, it does. It does.
You know, if we win, if we, and I say we as the United States, I get to call this soccer for the rest of the episode, and not just football.
I'm gonna have to sort this result out there.
Well, that's so. And we're going to talk about Orlando City, and I think you bring up a really interesting point on the tailgating front that I want to discuss with you later. But so share a little bit about, so you and Jess, who are the football clubs that y'all support?
So Jess is a Burnley fan. I'm sort of. I will go to the Burnley games. I'll watch a lot of the Burnley games. I grew up being, unfortunately, with their fierce rivals. I was very much a Blackburn Rovers fan, and now because I'm working towards being a football referee, and that sort of that distinct passion in terms of one team has sort of wavered for me. I'm more sort of, I'll watch. As long as I'm watching football, I'm happy. So I will go and watch Burnley. I will go and watch Blackburn. I've been to watch Manchester United, Liverpool, etc. But in terms of that, from my partner's perspective, Jess, she's very much Burnley through and through. Little town team that are doing really well at the moment, but everyone from Burnley sort of supports Burnley. It's very much you're born and raised as a fan of that team if you're from there.
So next question, I understand there's a soccer or a football show that I listen to on XM radio on sometimes on my drive in, and apparently there's a huge controversy where the host said once that Leicester City was a small club, and just got absolutely roasted for that. That Charlie Stilitano, literally, apparently, Sir Alex Ferguson, when he comes to the States and they ask him what the best restaurant is in New Jersey, he says Charlie Stilitano's house. This guy's got connections. So, what's the? I would imagine Leicester's a little club, but they kind of punch above their weight class. Where am I wrong?
Sure, I think Leicester's one of those where outside looking in, a 30,000 seater stadium, they do look like a small club. But I think if you look at the investment they've had, I think if you look at the fact it's actually a city club within, and again I think you therefore draw the likeness to Leeds United. Newcastle, Everton, because they, maybe some people have classed them in the past, I think, as a small club due to their their proximity to Liverpool, and Liverpool being so much larger and worldwide. I think Leicester's that same sort of ilk in the fact that they're surrounded by other what I would class as big clubs. You've got your Aston Villa, you've got your Birmingham that's close to them, you've got Nottingham Forest that are not too far away, and probably Aston Villa and Nottingham have a bit more history.
Oh, Harry Kane! Oh, offsides! Nice.
And the flag. But yeah, I think maybe that's because maybe for Leicester it's because of their proximity to other bigger clubs. The Aston Villa who've won the 2 European trophies, the Nottingham Forest who've done the same. Maybe that's why. But Leicester aren't, especially with their ability to win the Premier League. I wouldn't class them as a small club. Absolutely destroying me here.
Uncle Sam's Army came to play.
Yes. This is bad, and it's all recorded. This is
on the record.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to live this down.
I know we talked, I just was asking you about the small clubs and things like that. So, and you did mention that you're working your way up, and you mentioned maybe a few football clubs. I guess we're getting closer to me being able to call it soccer.
Yeah.
Our viewer, our streamer may not be familiar with. And that's one of the interesting things of being, watching soccer, watching football over in the States here, right? And we've got our quote lesser leagues, our lower tier leagues, but not necessarily the promotion relegation. It's not as intense as it is maybe over across the pond. So briefly explain, what the lower tiers are about. Why are you saying Birmingham City is a bigger club than Leicester City, although Leicester City is playing in the biggest league in the country?
I don't know whether Birmingham's a bigger club than Leicester, but I do think I would class Birmingham as a fairly big club, just because it's in the city. It's got a decent fan base. I think the lower levels are where you get these days. I think it's where you find potentially. You don't. I guess you don't want to class fans in one way or another, but maybe you're truer fans. You look at the way I remember. So Man City's probably the clearest example I can think of. In 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, before Man City were under all the investment, your Man City fans were all from Manchester, had followed Manchester City for 30, 40 years. They'd seen them at the lowest levels of English football, so 3-4 leagues below the Premier League, in games where if they hadn't won they would have gone out of the Football League, etc. And now they've seen all that investment. I think it obviously, prices have changed.
Oh, that was close.
I'm just trying to keep the ball out of the net at the moment.
No worries.
No,
so go on.
I think with the lower levels, you've got those that there's a lot of fans and there's still a significant following that'll follow clubs where, unless they're going to get somebody in to invest in them or buy them, we don't have a draft system similar to American football. There'll be fans of teams such as Wycombe, who just got promoted to the Championship, the league below the Premier League, who their fans are unlikely to ever see that team in the Premier League because of the fan base, because of the money, but yet still follow them up and down the country week in, week out. and I think that's maybe the difference. With the MLS, it's more of a franchise system, isn't it? And I think once you're in, there's a little bit of a sort of safety net. Whereas I think in the Premier League, and it's one of the fascinating things about English football is that being in the Premier League for certain teams is a one-season thing. You look at Blackpool, you know, quite a famous place in England, but again, seaside town, small club, had one season in the Premier League and weren't able to maintain it, and are now in, you know, the third tier of English football. And I think it's one of the things that I hope we never lose is the fact that each season can be so different and on such a knife edge.
So, I mean, it's interesting that you said Blackpool and not Sunderland.
Well, so
Sunderland's another story like that.
Yes, absolutely. But Sunderland's one of those where they've been up and down quite a few seasons, and Sunderland's one of those where Sunderland to me are a massive club. They've got a 48,000 seater stadium that in the third tier of English football last season they sold that out, and that is unprecedented. I would have said at that level of football, to have a higher attendance than I think it's higher than 4 or 5. Other than 4 or 5 teams in the Premier League, that attendance was higher than. And
maybe Wolverhampton.
Yes, yeah.
Not to diss European side Wolverhampton Wanderers or Wolves, not Wanderers but Wolves, but they whenever I watch them, they never seem to be a big time attendance group. But it's interesting you bring up some of those points about the lower leagues, where we're based out of here in Central Florida. Orlando had their time in the USL before the move up to MLS, and it was interesting, and all cards on the table. I really started following Orlando when in that MLS move. I kind of knew about the team, but it wasn't like I wasn't as into him as I was now. Oh, Jordan Morris. No
way. Oh, no way.
We know that this is a video game because Jozy Altidore got a hat trick. That is, he almost did a real Jozy Altidore thing and not score despite his best efforts. But, one of the interesting things was, when Orlando got the MLS side, when they became MLS, they brought in Kaká, and, there was all this hype around them and things like that. And they had Dom Dwyer, pardon me. One of the things that all the other fans would talk about, the old school fans would be like, they would call the new fans the plastic fans. So I definitely see where you're coming from of like, hey, there's an old school group of fans, and Orlando City is a team that made it from not through promotion or relegation, which I wish that's another show for another time that would love to have you on and talk about. But just from making the leap from USL to MLS, it was definitely interesting to see in how that's developed over the time. But I could definitely see, if I'm a second tier side, if I'm an Accrington Stanley fan, and let's say I've got some friends from the continent who want to come over, and they're on a train in London for the day. You're rocking your Accrington Stanley jersey when you're in London, and you're looking at those Chelsea fans, and you're saying, what are you looking at? So I can see that for sure. So go on. Sorry.
I was going to say it will be interesting. I think to see how potentially things change at Orlando with the. Obviously, with the recent franchise of Miami joining the MLS, do you think that'll change the fan base? Do you think more people will look to follow follow Miami? Did they already have a? I know it's a new club, but did they have a? I know Orlando moved up from the USL to the MLS, but did Miami have anything similar, or is it just a brand new franchise?
Brand new franchise. So, but Miami has had soccer teams in the past.
Right.
They've definitely had that before. Definitely an internet. It's kind of got this. Miami's a weird sports town. Not to switch sports here, but pulled one back.
Thank
Good
goodness
job.
for that. At least I got one on the board.
Pulled one back. So when LeBron James was playing for the Heat, and he had the big three of LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, they would always, you'd watch the first half of the game and you're thinking, man, this is like this is the team. Why is this not packed out all the time?
Yep.
Miami is just a late starting sports city. So the first quarter, sometimes the first half and playoff games, you'd see real empty stands. And it was very interesting. I think, but as I don't want to say nonchalant, but as interesting as, let's see, continue series. Oh, absolutely. We got one more in us. You've got the built-in fan base. A lot of fans love sports. It's a big Hispanic culture. I think, and the other part, I think that Miami doesn't think about Orlando a lot. I think when Orlando City started, there was some fans of Kaká here, and, you had that, but it wasn't necessarily this big, I want to follow Orlando City because it's the only MLS team in Florida. So you had that. By the way, for our viewer out there, we are switching over into Man United versus Man City, the Manchester Derby. Can't wait. I think that, and I think that Orlando has been bad enough over time that all of the, quote, plastics have already gone. Yeah. I think there's Nani there, which is, we love Nani. He's been doing really, really good, especially lately for us. But he's getting up there in age. But Miami just brought in Gonzalo Higuain, and there's a lot of buzz. You got David Beckham, you got all that. You got that was the team where if Messi was going to make an MLS move, they were saying it was going to be to Inter Miami. So I think right now Orlando is kind of set in terms of fan base. I don't think the Inter Miami squad is going to draw away, at least from like game day attendance.
Yeah.
And I think Orlando's got to start getting results and getting into the playoffs. Orlando can be a really good sports town when the teams are good. There's just too much to do. You got Disney World, you got golf, you got the beaches an hour away. If it's like Saturday night or Saturday, if it's Saturday noon game, if it's in July and it's 1,000 degrees outside, you're not wanting to go outside anyways. Or yet again, you've got a variety of different options. So it'll be a good time. I'm excited to have Miami in there, especially to kind of take away from Atlanta. Boo, Atlanta.
Is that? Do you think? I suppose that's an interesting question for me, because with us obviously playing the Manchester Derby, I think that's another thing for that. I don't think the rivalries are anywhere near as intense. I think. Do you find, does that come across on TV to yourself from this side of the pond to that? Or do you find that the rivalries are over there or not?
Yeah. So in terms of rivalries, I'll share this. I don't think anything as intense as like a Roma-Lazio match, or down at Boca Juniors and River Plate. You've got some of the big ones. I think the thing about rivalries in MLS versus the other leagues is just the history. There's no story yet of a Luis Figo going from Barcelona to Real Madrid. Kind of the MLS edition of that. Now, I'll tell you what, when we, and I say we as an Orlando City fan, played Atlanta United and Orlando was, riding high, and had just it was a wild game. In fact, security was literally throwing Atlanta fans out of the supporter section because they didn't want to start fights. They didn't. They thought, hey, the Orlando fans are going to go start a fight. When Orlando went to Bobby Dodd Stadium, which was where Atlanta played before their current stadium, literally Atlanta banned Orlando City groups just due to damage that Orlando City did to the stadium. So there's there's a billboard of Atlanta saying we're coming for you, Orlando. First year of Atlanta United. So you've got. So I think there's some definite bad blood between Orlando and Atlanta. I think that tempered as Atlanta obviously started as much better start to their franchise than Orlando. Yeah. I think El Trafico in LA has a chance to be interesting. Galaxy being always a pretty strong club and for MLS standards a pretty big notable club. With LAFC, just they've got the buzz around them, and they're kind of the new school versus the old school in LA Galaxy. The Hudson River Derby of NYCFC and New York Red Bulls. I mean, hey, you go on YouTube. There's some YouTubes of some big time brawls that happen between NYC and New York. But it's there's some. I never want to condone just outright violence, but I feel like movies such as Green Street Hooligans and things like that kind of add a little bit of mysticism to the fan bases and playing those. Big goal here for Man United, starting out strong.
Big goal.
Kind of starting that out of big rivalries and things like that.
Yeah, so, I think times have changed. I guess I suppose the rivalries over here used to be a lot more violent back in the 70s before my time. But I think even now, maybe our police force are very wary of that, because you'll find that for certain games, there's the Cardiff Swansea game, in Wales when they've played in the past. There's the Burnley Blackburn game. And a couple of others that in the country where they'll be classed as bubble fixtures. Now that'll be where effectively away fans are bussed in from, have to turn up at their home stadium to get bussed into the away stadium under police escort, and then at the end of the game will be bussed back again to the their home stadium. Now that's simply just to prevent disorder. I think and I hope they would get less and less, because one of the great things about derby matches is obviously the passion. But like you say, as long as it's not, I'm another one of those that's not a massive fan of the out and out brawl. But
I think the other thing too is just ticket prices. Ticket prices are so much more expensive than they used to be, right? You could go, which is, and would love to hear your comments here. I would more expect to see a brawl in like a League Two match, than Chelsea Everton, not Chelsea Everton. Chelsea. I guess Chelsea Arsenal would be that derby.
But you're probably looking at Arsenal in terms of London. Arsenal, Tottenham, West Ham. I think the one involving a Premier League club that you would see, and it's maybe not so great finish. Knew the minute that went through it was going in.
There we go.
I think the one that involving a Premier League club that you would probably expect would be that Burnley Blackburn one, or West Ham Millwall, because of that Green Street sort of the football factory, etc. That sort of those times. I don't think they've ever sort of got away from that since then. I think I'd agree with you. I think the lower leagues, there is potentially more opportunity for that disorder. But it seems to have gone out the game, hopefully, a little bit. I think the Man United Man City one is a really interesting case, though. I think the way that Manchester United over the past, probably over my entire lifetime, the past 2-3 decades have been so dominant, but are now getting really tested and to quite an extent overshadowed by Man City. He's sort of showing that fan base and that rivalry, the fact that it's got that history now. I think I suppose it always had, but it's now one that's 4 trophies and 4, you know, I think it's sort of flipped on its head, hasn't it? In terms of, it used to be an expectation that Manchester United would win everything. Now they go into most of the games between them as the underdogs.
You know, I remember hearing a chant from Chelsea fans a couple years ago when they played Man United. Chelsea was beating Man United, and they said, "Your city is blue. Your city is blue. Just like in London, your city is blue." So they weren't just trolling Man United for beating them, but they were trolling Man United for being the second team in Manchester at that current standpoint. So that's got to tell you something. But so Peter, speaking of, I know we're talking about some Premier League teams. What's kind of the consensus right now about the Premier League? I know we've got a couple games under our belts and things like that, but what's kind of who's kind of the going favorite right now? And who do you think is going to be maybe a surprise club? Who do you think is going to be a club that's duking it out at the end for relegation? And who should just pack their bags for the championship right now?
I think so. I think you always look at the teams that have just joined us this season as probably your relegation favourites. So I think you look at your West Brom and your Fulham. Probably would be my 2 favourites for relegation. I think maybe then you look at the Leeds. I think will do quite well. I think they might be a surprise package and finish higher up the table. I think the game they played against Liverpool the other week. I don't think Liverpool have conceded 3 at Anfield in, I want to say it's over 3 years in the Premier League, if not more. I think it's a significant period of time, and I think the last team to do it was Man City.
No,
that's true. Could I salvage a little bit of pride after the last game?
We're calling it soccer already, so you tell me.
We are. I think in terms of for the title, I don't think much further than Liverpool or Man City. I think Liverpool, the deals they've done for Thiago over the last couple of days, Jota from Wolves. I do think they're building a bit more squad depth than they had last season, which will be interesting. I like the business that Chelsea have done as well. I think Havertz and Werner coming in will be really good pieces of business for them. I think once they get Pulisic back, which I'm sure he's very much somebody that you keep an eye on, because I know I keep an eye on players like Jadon Sancho when he plays for Dortmund, just with being an Englishman. So I think Chelsea will do well. I'm not sure on the Mourinho effect at Tottenham. They had a great result at the weekend, but is that wearing off? I don't know. And then obviously you've got the Ancelotti factor, haven't you? At Everton, they've done some great business over the summer in terms of transfers, and could quite easily sneak into those European spots and take, go on a run like Wolves did the other season and do quite well, I think.
And a Burnley like a few seasons ago. Let us not forget.
Absolutely. I think this season for Burnley will be a little bit more difficult. I think they've not done as much business in the transfer market. But I think they're always one of those clubs that are punching above their weight. I think they'll be. They're obviously not always expected to challenge in that top half. I think this season, the first aim, as is every season for them, will be survival, and then build from there if they can.
There you go. So I want to know. So I've always kind of just looked at a club like Arsenal, and between Arsenal and Fulham, those are like the two clubs in England that just most Americans kind of tend toward, right?
Okay.
You know, and maybe that's just my small sample size. Fulham has, you know, Americans, you know, over the past with Clint Dempsey and now Tim Ream.
Yeah.
You know, even more so than like the Tim Howard effect in Everton and things like that. But for whatever reason, you know, Arsenal is kind of Arsenal gets maybe a little too much love in my opinion. What's the speak for the entire island, Peter? What do people, you know, you're at a pub on a Friday afternoon after work and someone's saying, oh, do you see what Arsenal's got coming, you know, this weekend at the Etihad? So, I mean, what's the response to that? What are people saying about Arsenal these days, just kind of in general?
I think they're always ever since, well, I think for the last 10 years, they're always a club that promise so much and deliver so little. I think you can't deny they're a big club, but for their beautiful stadium, for the players they've had, have they underachieved? I think yes, massively.
David the Spider-Man over there, good night. He is saving everything.
I think they should have probably won more, challenged a bit more, but they haven't. Maybe they've not. I don't know whether they've just not got the respect or as a Manchester United, or the pulling power or finances of a Man City these days, because they've just not been able to. Other than maybe Aubameyang, you look at the misses, I guess, for them in terms of transfers and in terms of Ozil, promises so much and yet just hasn't delivered, has he? Really? I think Arsenal are always one that look strong at home, seem to do well at home, but they're always a team that when they go away from home, you expect them to struggle. Years back, they go to away to a team like Bolton or maybe Crystal Palace these days. Teams that 5-10 years ago, probably more 10 years ago now, they'd be expected to beat and beat comfortably, and they don't. And they're always one of those that seems to have that soft. If you get ahead against them, you can be fairly confident that they might not come back at you unless it's what is classed as a big game for them.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I saw a BuzzFeed article once about, it wouldn't have been BuzzFeed, maybe Bleacher Report, about all the number 9s that Arsenal has spent big money on and all the misses. It's like the curse of the number 9. So
you look at their greatest player or one of their greatest players in my eyes, in Thierry Henry. He was bought in, and I certainly don't think when he was bought in, the expectation on him was that he would turn out to be as good a signing. And I think the same can possibly be said of similar players around that generation, your Patrick Vieira's, etc., that they brought in and ended up being world class. I think now they bring in players that you would expect to be world class, that then don't live up to that, and that's maybe where they struggled.
Gotta be good on scouting, that's for sure. So as we're getting into the finishing end, the business end here, and there we go, pulling one back, a little bit of pride for the Blues, the Manchester City citizens. Talk to me about one of your favorite game day memories at a match. It doesn't have to be at a match. It could be you were at a pub watching a match. You were on a train and a result came in. Share a little bit about one of your favorite memories.
I honestly have to say this, but I think one of what I've experienced one this year. was I managed to get over to Milan, and I managed to see the Milan derby. Now, that in terms of from the evening of arriving at the stadium, we arrived 2.5 hours before the game. Not sure really what to expect, and this is one of the most famous derbies in world football. And there's fireworks going off, and this is 2.5 hours before the game. There's thousands upon thousands of fans chanting. That it felt like a massive occasion, and not one that we were expecting. And then I think we went into the game going, wow, this is in terms of the atmosphere, was living up to our expectations. But then to sort of witness the game that we witnessed was Zlatan's first.
We got a game here. We're getting a little tight. You sweating?
Yeah, just a little bit. I think to then get into the ground and see the San Siro, which is a remarkable stadium, but then to witness the game that we witnessed is up there. I think AC Milan went 2-0 up. Were 2-0 up at half time, and Inter scored 4 in the second half.
The ageless wonder. The ageless wonder he turned this game upside down.
The keeper's forward. The keeper is forward.
Oh, that ought to do it. So the Milan derby was it. Yeah,
I think that's probably my favorite football memory, if I have to be honest.
Did I ever tell you the story of the Orlando City match in which Betsy and I did our mobile tailgate?
No.
Oh yeah, so Orlando City was playing Chicago Fire, and this was over at the Citrus Bowl. So I know you saw the new now Exploria Stadium,
yes.
But at the Citrus Bowl, which is kind of a NFL college bowl game type venue, a lot of tailgating that goes on, and it was rainy ahead of time. So what Betsy and I did is we went and we bought a few 6-packs of beer, and we would literally hop from tent to tent while people were tailgating, and we called it the mobile tailgate. We would offer some of our beer for some of their food, and we just got to know people and got to chat with them and get ready to watch Orlando City. I'm sure that they didn't play too great that day. This year is different for our Lions, but that between that and then there is I'll send you a link on YouTube and I'll tell you where to watch it. I was at a game where Orlando City played Montreal, big time playoff implications on the line, with a classic big time MLS goal from the corner. The ball was bouncing around all over the place and somehow found its way in the back of the net, and that was wild. So those are a few of my favorite stories, and I know there's a trip to England next year to see you get married, and hopefully,
fingers crossed. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, hopefully the pandemic is not still going.
Absolutely. I think one thing I have said to you a couple of times, isn't it, is I need to do some tailgating when we get back that side of the pond. Definitely.
Oh yes, we will make it happen. Well, anyhow, Peter, I appreciate your time, and I know it's late. And any parting words for our viewer?
Nah, I think thanks for listening. Hopefully I haven't bored everyone to tears. But I do think that obviously if you ever visit this side of the pond and can take in a football league game, whether that is a Premier League game or further down the pyramids, definitely it's something I'd recommend, because I genuinely don't think there's anything like our football.
Sounds good. Well, all right, my friend, I hope you have a great evening, and we're going to sign off here from Friends Stream Sports. This is Friends with Friends, new friends streaming sports. Have a good evening.